Well, be back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for staying with us here at Smart 24 TV. My name is Anthony, and this is Financial Markets, where we bring you information and insights into the money and capital markets, and of course, what's trending on the financial market scene here in Uganda, in East Africa, and the region as well. Talking about the region, today we have a very special guest from South Africa. That is Mr. Killian, who is an investor who has invested in several financial markets down there in South Africa, including cryptocurrencies, including capital markets, the stocks, and he has made himself a distinguished investor at a very young age. And he's going to be talking to us a little bit about, the safety of these investments, how you can safely invest, how you can actually run investments in different portfolios, and also maintain a good investment portfolio without, of course, giving money to scammers and people online, especially given the fact that many people have been scammed, especially in the cryptocurrency sector. We are looking at how can someone invest safely in these virtual currencies, in these investments, and so on. He's going to be talking to us shortly, and of course, you should look out for him. He's a very great guy. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us at Smart 24 TV. My name is Anthony. I am your host for Financial Markets. Like I said, we have a very special guest. His name is Killianbosch from South Africa, with a vast wealth of experience in investment, in crypto, in capital markets, and the like. And he's here to talk to us about his journey, as well as to give us a few tips on what we need to know if we are told we are to invest in some of these ventures. Killian, how are you doing there?
Hi, good to meet you, and very excited to be on the show.
Thank you very much for honoring our invite. Just to start off with, who are you in terms of investment? What kind of person can you describe to be Killianbosch in terms of investment?
Cool. So from my side, I'm an African. I'm currently 23 years old, and I'm very, very passionate about investing in financial markets, and specifically cryptocurrencies. And I truly believe in the potential that they have, specifically in Africa, and obviously, globally. And a bit of my background: studied at Killianbosch University here in Cape Town, and studied BCom investments, and then did my honors in financial analysis. And I was going to go the route of doing the CFA. I'm sure most people are quite familiar with that charter, but I decided against it so that I can pursue more knowledge on cryptocurrencies and trading the markets, and deep diving into the ecosystems, because I truly believe that's where the next big opportunity is for us as youngsters. But at the same time, for other people have that knowledge, you can really take advantage of it and hopefully start a successful business in the space.
23 is quite young, really, for you to actually have all this, A friend of mine told me, actually, you started way earlier. And of course, probably you were still in university by that time. How did you learn about this? Because many young people actually are quite skeptical about these investments, because probably the knowledge seems so abstract, especially now when you look at cryptocurrency, the capital markets. How did you interest yourself to learn about this?
So for me, it was a passion. I've always been someone that likes to make money. So when I saw that people were making money and I wasn't part of it, I was like, I need to get involved here. So it was that keen interest that got me into the space at first. But you know how the saying goes, you get in it for the money, but you stay for the technology. So what really drove me was, firstly, I was interested in it, but secondly, I realized, hold on, it's not like I can study this at university. It's not like I can go to an older mentor to teach me about this. Nobody could tell me about it except the time and effort I've been researching on the internet. And I think that was the key point, because I looked at other people and I was saying, guys, this is such revolutionary technology. Why is nobody spending time researching this? And the answer is the barrier of entry was too high for most people, not because they didn't have access to it, but because they weren't willing to put in the effort and spend hours on the internet studying and learning it for yourself. And I think that's what separated me from maybe some other people, and what continues to separate people that are growing and increasing in the space versus those that are sort of waiting for taking a reactive approach where they're going to wait for someone else to make a move and then they'll react, versus someone that's proactive and says, you know what, I'm going to step into this space head first and I'm going to get my hands dirty and figure out how it works so that you can come out on top, when we truly achieve global adoption of this technology.
Wow. Very, very, very interesting right there. I don't know, have you considered investing in stocks before, the stock market, besides cryptocurrency?
Yeah, I was investing in stocks before I was in crypto. But for me, I just felt that, nothing against investing in stocks. I still invest a little bit here and there in the stock market, but for me, most of my time and effort gets put into cryptocurrency markets. And, for me, the pivoting point is just that the stock market it's efficient in the sense that there's so many different players in the market and so many different, obviously, professionals, and most of the financial system revolves around the stock market and what it does. So essentially, it's like the word is, it's just it's crowded. There's too many people in there. Whereas in the crypto markets, there was significantly less competition. So there's more of an opportunity for you there. And really, for me, it was like, okay, here's a new market that's very inefficient, that has a lot of inefficiencies in the way that these things are priced, and those are the opportunities you can take as an investor and say, you know what, I know it's a high risk, but if you actually know what you're doing, you sort of, you bring some of that risk out and you can actually make really good money in the space.
Yeah. In our country here, they recently banned transactions in crypto. And of course, this was due to very many fraudulent cases where people actually, scam people of their money and promise them to buy maybe crypto for them and, make a huge profit. And the next day, these guys closed and everyone was very, very disappointed. Just take us through your experience when you're investing in crypto. How was it for you? Did you find any such people? And how can you overcome such instances?
Yeah, man. So that is a big problem in this space. It's prevalent everywhere. In South Africa, we had like 3 of the biggest cryptocurrency scams in the world in 2020 and 2021. I'm sure you would have read about it on the news. So yeah, you're not alone. And I think the entire space is not alone. And what makes people susceptible to these type of phishing attacks and like just outright scamming people is that the technology is so new. Most people that are in the space, maybe they have a little bit of extra money and they're speculating and trying to throw money around, but they're easily susceptible to scammers and phishing attacks just because they're not educated. And that's typical of a new industry. Like if you look at any new industry in history, like especially technology, when the internet first started to get going, people were getting scammed left, right, and center at the start then. And even, we refer to it as Web 2, they're still getting scammed. Like, it's not like it's slowed down. It's always just because there's a lack of education from the people that use the technology, right? So it's important to separate that. It doesn't make the technology unsafe, or it doesn't make the technology insecure. It's important to understand that when humans are involved, there's always going to be these errors, right? Because essentially these hackers and scammers, they're just preying on human emotion and on the downfall of people's ability to make rational decisions. So I would answer it like that and just say, always separate the underlying technology from the people that are sort of being bad actors in this space, and how to resolve that and how to get rid of these type of things. It's just education. As people get educated, as they understand the technology better, as they understand what type of scams there are, if something's too good to be true, it probably is. Those type of things, which might be common knowledge to someone who's been in the space for a while, it might not be common knowledge for people that are just entering it. And they've heard of these high returns, but they don't actually understand how the stuff gets generated. So I think that's how I'd answer that.
Yeah, so let's talk about crypto a little bit more before we compare it with now the stock market. Cryptocurrency, as I know, is a digital asset, and many people know it's 100% virtual, decentralized. But how can you, in your own way, make someone understand, if they're hearing it maybe for the first time, what cryptocurrency is, and what can you compare it to?
Yeah, sure. So I always like to make the distinction in people's minds because people hear crypto and they're like, cool, but then they hear currency.
Yes.
And they think that every coin is a currency. So they think that every coin that you see, that's very volatile, prices going up and down, they think, how on earth are we meant to be using this as a currency? And that's just the terminology, that's what confuses people, because 99% of cryptocurrencies are not currencies at all. They're essentially just technology companies that have a coin which represent the value of that technology company. So, for example, you'll have Ethereum, right? The second biggest cryptocurrency in the world, right? The price goes up and down and it fluctuates, but it's not a currency. It's just a technology, and the price is what people deem that technology is worth. So firstly, I would always just, draw that distinction and say, guys, don't get confused. It's not a currency.
Yes.
And then secondly, to explain, why this technology is revolutionary and why you should be interested and care about digital assets. Yes. For people that live in Africa and have been exposed to, blatant corruption in our governments, I think most people can say, maybe we are giving them a little bit too much control. Maybe we are, handing too much of the reins to them, because we pay our taxes and we do all of that. But a lot of times they're making decisions that are completely, nonsensical. And especially when it comes down to money, people work very hard for their money. And if the government has the ability to say, you know what, guys, I'm sorry, you can't withdraw money out of the banks, you can't send money overseas, at that point, you now become a slave to that government. And we have many historical examples of this, right? And even most recently, you can just look at Russia, right? The people who had money in Russian bank accounts suddenly couldn't withdraw their Russian rubles overseas. The Putin was just like, government said, sorry guys, there's no capital outflows. Now suddenly the Russian ruble, depreciates in value against every other world currency, and suddenly all the money you work for your entire life has become worth nothing, and you can't do anything about it. And this is where the digital asset space becomes important, because decentralization is, and that's really made this technology what it is. It's the fact that you can make transactions and send data around and do things like that in decentralized way, which has the core benefit of no central point of failure. So there's no one government that can tell you you can't or you must do this.
Yeah. Wow. Well,
so it gives people the freedom to handle and access their money, bad in that sense.
Yeah. But the government, of course, have come up to say that cryptocurrency is a good thing in terms of transactions, and people are able to, trade, seamlessly online, buy things abroad without any taxes involved and so on. And government is saying that, of course, this is creating an opportunity for money launderers. It's creating an opportunity for people to do crimes and, of course, obtain money illegally and then use cryptocurrency, to hide under that, because, as we know, cryptocurrencies are not regulated. And of course, this is their concern. Do you think they have a point in saying that, hey, cryptocurrencies are good, but they're not regulated? No one regulates them, and that's why they're risky ventures.
So I would ask the government the question, how much fraud and how much, bad things happen with physical cash? And the answer, and they would answer and they'd say, you know what, you're right. There's a lot of stuff that happens with physical cash. And then my question would be like, so why are you not banning cash? You know, just because it's being used for something nefarious doesn't mean you suddenly ban it, right? And so that would be my first point, because that argument never makes sense from, you know, when governments raise that point. However, I do understand from their concern that these things might be being used for criminal purposes. But secondly, it's a really bad choice from the criminal to use the blockchain and use digital assets to try and, you know, hide their activities, because everything's recorded on the blockchain, right? If you're far better off stealing money with cash than you are by using cryptocurrencies. Why? Because as soon as we know your address, and there's many different ways, like you can actually get that address, but as soon as you know that, you can track the money all the way from the start to the end. And that's on an immutable ledger, which essentially means it's there forever. Like you can't remove it and you can't undo that. So second point would be, it's not a smart move from people that are trying to steal money to use the blockchain. And in terms of, you know, if that makes it risky or not, I think, you know, the argument that cryptocurrencies are risky, yes, they are, but you know, look at it in the greater scheme of things. Like, it's a very new technology, and I believe regulation should come into the space. However, I believe that the regulation should be, you know, it should be logical in the sense that you never want to stifle new innovation. So you don't want the regulator to come in and say, okay, guys, we're banning everything cryptocurrency related, and now suddenly the one opportunity an African country has to you know, accelerate global trade and accelerate technology innovation within their own country gets stifled just because the government is too scared to really take a step and take a stance and say, you know what, guys, let's try and use this for our own benefit. And I think that's the key. You know, the regulator in most African countries, including South Africa, they just don't know enough about the technology yet. And that's okay. It's normal. Just in my opinion, it's important that they don't just take a blatant stance and they say, we're just going to ban everything. You know, they should talk to people involved in the industry, which many of these large companies they're very willing to do. And from there say, okay, maybe it's best to do X, Y, and Z. And I really think that's the best way forward.
Now, of course, due to this, you know, enthusiasts of cryptocurrency, even in countries where it has been banned, people have still, you know, done crypto, especially those who have learned the game, how it works. And central banks are saying, okay, since you cannot do away with these digital assets, they're coming up with something called the Central Bank Digital Currency, the CBDC. And this is maybe a way to outcompete cryptocurrencies, and maybe, since it's going to be a regulated currency, virtual currency to say, they're bringing it as a substitute. Do you think this is going to work? And how do you think it will work with, of course, the cryptocurrency?
Yeah, so that is a big debate in the cryptocurrency space, because remember, like at first, people, like the core vision of cryptocurrency is decentralization and not having one party that can, you know, control things and make all the decisions and, you know, basically just say, sorry, you can't use your money anymore. Like, we're trying to move away from that. So the whole proliferation of CBDCs presents, you know, brings us back to square one, where, yes, you know, we can have a digital currency, for example, the South African Rand on digital rails, but it's not really the core vision of crypto, because now you have, you know, the entire nation's like currency running on these rails, and it might seem good. It might seem like, oh, this is way more efficient. You can track it, this and that. But if you do end up with a rogue government and with someone who takes control of those decisions, you can end up with someone saying, okay, you can't spend your money, you can, you know, we're going to block your money here, you can't do that, and there'll be nothing that you can do about it, because it's not like you'll be using cash at that point. So, you know, in some instances it's good and it makes sense from a logical perspective, but on the other end, it brings you back to square one, where you're back with now a central party making decisions about how the currency moves and flows in that country. And it sort of doesn't solve the issue. that we try to solve in the very first place.
Yeah.
So that's just a small touch in this entire argument. But from my perspective, I don't think it means that if that becomes like the way that our currencies get traded and stuff, it doesn't mean cryptocurrencies are done away with, right? For example, like it doesn't mean Bitcoin's just going to die out because everyone's just going to use CBDCs. It's not like a mutually exclusive thing, So I think it's just important to understand that governments will probably enforce it. It won't be something where everyone's like, okay, guys, everyone in the country is like, okay, cool, let's start using CBDCs. It's such a good incentive for everyone to use. It'll be something where, okay, guys, no more, you can't use whatever you used before. You have to use CBDCs. And if you don't, you can't buy anything. You can't get healthcare. You can't drive your car. You can't pay for food. But it'll be something like that because, that's what will force people to use it. So again, that strengthens the case for something like Bitcoin, something like Ethereum, or whatever else, because if you can store your money in that, and that's just a digital asset, that's not a currency, and then keep your money out of the control of these people that might not necessarily have your best interest at heart.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are still talking to Mr. Killianbosch, who is from South Africa, someone who is very young, but interestingly has invested in a lot of financial markets and has made himself, a very wealthy experience out of it. We are still talking cryptocurrency, stock markets, and how you can actually get open-minded and start investing in some of these things that we call ununderstandable and inexplicable, yet actually some people who have actually learned how the game works have actually gained from them. Now, Mr. Killian, back to you. We would love to, our viewers to know, as you who has actually worked with cryptocurrency, how does cryptocurrency work? How do I make money off crypto? How does it work?
Okay, cool. So that is, it's quite a long question and answer, but I'll try and shorten it out for you. I think it's important to understand when you enter the space, you are taking on a lot of risk. Why is that? Because, firstly, the space isn't regulated, but that wouldn't mean it's less volatile. It would just mean there's more measures in place to protect investors that don't really know what's going on. So, my answer would be, how do you make money in this space? Firstly, you educate yourself, because education is the start of making good decisions, right? How can you possibly expect to succeed in anything if you're just going to jump in there and throw money around and think that it's just going to grow? Like that's just a basic principle in life. So educating yourself and understanding the technology, yes, it might take a month to 3 months, but that knowledge and that wisdom that you gain from doing that will ultimately help you make good decisions and help you know which projects, which protocols are actually going to do well in the long run. Because essentially what people are doing when they buy cryptocurrencies is they are betting on certain projects and certain protocols, gaining network effect, gaining market share. And because of that, people will speculate on the price. And so, for example, if something becomes big and it gains, network effect, like take a project like Solana that did very well in 2020 to 2021. If you take a project like that starts being used a lot by a lot of the market participants, people will, assume and there's so many different metrics you can use to say that something's doing well, but they will look at a project like that and then just by virtue of adoption, that will push the price up because people will say, this project's being used, they'll build their own thesis around it. And essentially that's what will push the price up. So the only way you'll know that something will get adopted is if you understand the technology. So once again, it comes back around to, if you want to invest in the space, my greatest advice is educate yourself. And you might ask, how do I educate myself? YouTube and Google. We all have access to it. But you have to separate, those guys that are teaching you good quality, providing good content, and those that are, sort of just trying to sell you something or just trying to incentivize you to buy whatever they they are pushing. You know, we call it shilling in crypto. So I would really just advise people, come into the space with an open mind. Like I said, educate yourself, and, you know, be prepared to take some losses. You know, don't sell your house and put it into crypto, but start with a bit of pocket change. And every time you lose money, see it as education. You know, if you lost money, learn the lesson and say, you know what, I'm going to come back better next time. You know, so ultimately you're making money by trading the cryptocurrencies and the price of their actual tokens going up or down. So that's the most basic way of how to you know, start succeeding in the space.
Yeah. Now, you know, we understand the fact that most people make money on crypto by probably buying a coin or something like that, and then they wait for the coin to gain value and sell at a higher price, which is the way kind of how stock markets as well work or operate. Would you say that whenever the prices go down, people should be buying cryptos and then selling at prices as they go up? Is that how it works, literally?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously, you know, easier said than done, but crypto works. Crypto works in cycles. So, you know, if you kept your eye on what happened in 2020 and 2021, you call that a bull cycle. So that was one of the biggest bull cycles, probably the biggest bull cycle crypto has ever seen. Why? Because the US government and central banks around the world printed trillions of dollars to support the economy because of COVID. And what ended up happening is all of that money that was printed was being funneled into the stock markets, crypto markets, and real estate markets. So that's why we saw those markets reaching all-time highs. And it was insane growth in every single market. So essentially, what it resulted in is something called euphoria. So investors just become extremely bullish, extremely positive on the market, and it seems like things they can never go down. It seems like they'll just keep on going up, and there's just infinite upside. But that's when you want to be selling, right? Because that's not sustainable in any way. And if you've been in crypto long enough, you'll understand that, you know, things can go up 10, 20, 50, 100 times from where you bought them, but they can fall 60, 70, 80, 90% during the bear markets very, very easily. So ultimately, you know, you just want to make sure that you are not buying when everyone's hyped. You want to make sure you're selling at that point. And then you also want to make sure that when everything looks dead, like it does now, things might look like there's absolutely no life in the market. This is when you want to be buying. This is when you want to start allocating capital. Because if you can just wait a couple of years from here onwards, you'll be in a good position.
Wow, interesting. I think that is a good insight right there. I think education is quite important. People need to learn these things before they get started. But let's veer off into now the stock market a little bit. You know, the stock market works kind of like cryptocurrency as well. You bet on a certain company, you buy shares in it, and then you trade probably at higher prices. How do you think and when do you think someone should consider investing in stock markets? Should they be when they're starting out as investors, when they're still young, or should they think about it later on in life?
I think everyone should be investing in the stock market because you know, you don't necessarily have to be an expert on it. There's things called index funds, ETFs, which essentially just give you exposure to the broader market. And historically, the stock market has returned, I don't know the exact figure, but it's somewhere around 10% per annum, you know, for the last like 60 or 70 years. So if you take a long-term approach and you say, you know what, I'm 20 years old, but I'm going to start putting a little bit of money. You know, you take 5% of your monthly income and you say, I'm going to invest this in the stock market. And you're just going to keep on buying. It's proven that if you do that and you buy irrespective of where the market is, you'll be very, very well off when your retirement comes. But obviously, you know, most people are not that patient and they're not that disciplined. So, you know, I like to, you know, just encourage people that investing and just understanding markets, even on a basic level, is one of the easiest ways to make extra income, right? you don't have to be extremely smart. Yes, it's a very complex thing, the global financial markets, but if you just take a diligent approach, a long-term view, your money will grow. Because that's historically proven over a very long time period. So in terms of like if you should start in stock markets or crypto, I think start in stock markets and then at the same time start in crypto. But a lot of the things that I learned in crypto, and the lessons that I learned actually came from investing in stocks. And a lot of the way that crypto moves is the same as stocks. So if you can understand what moves the stock market and just understand the macroeconomic approach of, what is making it move back and forth, you can understand, okay, similar principles will apply in crypto. And in the current climate that we have now, crypto is very dependent on what's happening in the stock market. For example, inflation, all of these things are actually directly influencing the price of crypto. So to answer your question, very important, start with the stock market. And if you want to start with crypto at the same time, and remember, you don't have to know, Rome wasn't built in a day. You don't have to know everything about everything in the first year. Pick an area, start to learn that, start to study that, and your diligence will be rewarded.
Wow, very beautiful, very amazing. We are almost coming to the end, but I wouldn't want to go out without a little bit of your personal experience. As a young person, many young people watch this program and they want to become investors, they want to build their wealth at a young age. And they don't know where to start quite well. They have jobs that maybe earn them probably, let me say, $200 a month. And they're wondering how to spend this money wisely, how they can invest, of course, survive, given the, whatever is happening to the economy, but as well, grow their wealth. How did you manage to do this as a young person? How did you spend those first monies that you earn as a young person?
Yeah, so for me, I'm quite entrepreneurial. So a lot of the money that I did earn, I spent it on either investing or trying to start new business ideas. And that's very important because, yes, you can invest a lot, but at the end of the day, if you're a business owner and you can build a decent sized business, that's going to generate far more income than your investments could. And the lessons you learn from there will be invaluable going into the investing world as well. So for any young person, I would really recommend them to, don't spend time watching movies and watching series all day and just wasting your time. What are you doing in your extra hours? Like when you get home from work or you have extra time in between your studies, spend it on learning something new, right? Because us as Africans and as youngsters, we know how to use the internet. And even if you don't know, you can learn. And the internet offers way more opportunity than our parents ever had, right? So especially coming into the crypto space, there's not that many people that know exactly what's going on. So if you can take the time and diligently spend time studying, understanding the technology, you can start working remotely, right? And that's a position I find myself in. I do a few different remote jobs for companies in Europe and America. And now I'm earning foreign currency while sitting in South Africa. And you can do the same while sitting in Uganda or sitting in Nigeria. And that makes a huge difference because we all know how much stronger the US dollar is or how much stronger the euro is than our African currencies. So what they pay you, it might look to them as, oh, I'm paying this guy not much. But to us, you're earning 4 or 5 times what you would earn at your local job, right? And you might ask, but how do I get to that point? Education, right? People pay for content and for content creators. And so that's really something I believe anyone can do. Study to show yourself approved. And from there, you creating stuff on Twitter. Right? And make it good content. And at some point, somebody will notice this guy, that keeps writing good articles or making videos or whatever. I'm not talking about being an influencer, but I'm talking about using the internet and putting your name out there so that people can see, okay, this guy really knows what he's talking about. And from there, I truly believe, anyone with the internet connection and a computer can
Yeah.
learn and can really take this opportunity. Because I know we're closing off, but think about this, like the technology is so new, you can't even learn about it in universities or in schools, right? So here you have an opportunity to get yourself ahead of the pack. And from that point, you can pivot off, and there'll be such a demand for these skills when the global adoption of this technology comes, because we're very close to it. But if you've got the skills that people need, they're going to pay you a lot for those skills.
Wow, thank you very much, Mr. Killianbosch, for the time you've given to us. We are so grateful as Smart 24 TV, where we have been having so many people here bashing cryptocurrency and so on. But at least you've given us a different perspective, and we are so grateful. Now in 30 seconds, you can give your parting shot and maybe where you can people can find you for more education on investment.
All right. Cool. So you can find me on YouTube at Fundamentally Crypto. I'm sure you guys will link it in the description below. And then you can also follow me on Twitter, Fundi, FUNDI_crypto. And that's mostly where I post most of my content. And feel free to subscribe and like, and reach out to me if you have any questions.
Wow. Thank you very much. I hope to see you again very soon, Mr. Killian. We are very grateful for the time.
All right. Thanks, man. Have a good evening. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you. That was it from us here with Mr. Killian from, of course, South Africa. He's an investor who has made his name in crypto, especially, and he has given us a little bit of what he does. And of course, that is exactly what we're telling you here in the show. You could start investing with as little as you have. Thank you very much for keeping with us. Stay tuned at Smart 24.